either in the non-existent art gallery in Fisher Hall.
And of course, by that we mean we're in an edit bay looking at images on a computer screen.
Like the cheapskates we are. And we've got two very different pieces to talk about today.
Are they different, though?
Oh, most definitely.
Really?
Yes, because one is something that's real and the other one is this.
But this is real.
Is it?
Well, it's made of real substance. It's made of wood. It exists in time and space.
True, but would you say that it's real in terms of its actuality? Would you say that this is really a ladder?
Yes, of course it is. I mean, it's clearly a ladder. What else could it be?
I don't know. What else is it?
Well, I think that's something we need to discuss.
All right.
Are you ready?
Let's ekphrase this biatch.
Let's do it.
So whose work is this?
This is Martin Puryear's ladder for Booker T. Washington, done in 1996. Booker T being, of course, the famous abolitionist.
Yeah, so this guy, Booker T. Washington, was born to slavery in 1856, became emancipated, grew up to be a leading figure in the civil rights movements in the South from 1890 to 1915. He's a key historical figure.
He was on a postage stamp.
So here we have this piece that's dedicated to him, and it's this crooked, misshapen ladder leading upwards, suspended over the floor. I guess what I'm wondering is, why is it dedicated to him?
Well, first of all, it is oddly shaped, but it still obviously conveys a sense of traveling upward.
Right.
It's larger down at the bottom, really small up at top.
Yes, perspective is very much directed one way, towards the top.
And this can be seen sort of as Washington's rise to the top, you could say.
Only it isn't a straight path.
Exactly. And that's the key here. This isn't just about a rise to the top of a ladder, a climb to the last rung sort of thing.
Right.
Because you could just use a normal ladder for that.
Or just a straight line.
But this ladder is crooked. It's disjointed. It doesn't look like it'd be a very pleasant climb.
Not at all.
This climb isn't easy. The climb that Booker T. Washington took, the climb that is the fight for civil rights, it is a fight and it's not easy.
And I suppose you could say that some parts of the climb are smoother than others?
Yes.
Like, I was noticing that one particular crook up near the top. It's much more exaggerated than any of the other sections. It looks like it's about to snap.
And you know, there were those moments, points in history of civil rights struggle where things got seriously bad.
Like, that could represent an assassination, possibly?
Or an important bill not getting passed, or just something that really trips up the people involved. But the important thing to note here is that no matter what happens, it's always going up.
Ah.
And that's what I think ties this to America in general, and kind of the philosophy of patriotism.
Aha.
Constant struggle, but continuously rising up.
Speaking of rising up, why is the ladder suspended in the air? I mean, not only is it in a shape that we normally don't see in ladders, but it's also not in the normal context that we would see with a ladder either.
Well, first of all, I don't think it's taken completely out of context. It is sort of leaning against the wall facing up.
Yeah.
But I think what Puryear is showing here is that this journey, this struggle for independence or civil rights, or whatever kind of journey you can imagine, it's a struggle from the very start. And you can't just climb up casually.
Aha.
You know, you have to take a leap of faith in order to even begin the journey. And it's intimidating. I think that's very intentional here. It's up off the ground, it's casting harsh shadows that you can see in the background.
Yes, those wavy lines are very intimidating.
It's really about struggle and about adversity and about the courage needed to go on a journey like this.
Very interesting. Well, let's move on from this bit of abstraction to something more realistic. This is Ansel Adams' Tetons and the Snake River.
But is it realistic?
What do you mean? I mean, obviously, it's a real place that exists. It's the Grand Tetons mountain range in Wyoming, and the Snake River that runs by them.
But is that really what it is? I mean, it's certainly a representation of a place, but does it actually exist? Is what we're seeing right now actually real?
You know, I suppose not.
Ah.
Not anymore, at least. This was taken in 1942 during one of Adams' many treks across the American West. I was looking at this photograph sometime last year, and my photography teacher, Tom Turner, came up to me and told me something interesting about it, which is that no one can take this shot ever again. All the trees you see here are pretty much saplings. And that was, of course, more than 40 years ago. So now, if you go and stand at this point where Adams took the picture, you can't see the Snake River. All you can see is trees.
Fascinating.
So when we look at this picture, we are looking at a place that literally does not exist in reality, at least not since the 40s.
But even if you were there in the 40s when it was like this, and you went and stood on that spot and looked in the exact same place that Adams did, would you see this?
No, you would not.
Ah.
You absolutely would not. And that gets to the heart of what made Ansel Adams such a tremendous photographer, and I think what makes any great artist truly great. It's the ability to see the beauty and the artistry where others might see something simple. There's a quote from Adams that I really enjoy, which comes from his Parmelian Prince of the High Sierras book. He says, "I had been able to realize a desired image, not the way the subject appeared in reality, but how it felt to me and how it must appear in the finished print."
So he's creating his own reality.
Well, not just that. He sees the reality that exists in his artist's eye. Ansel Adams saw photographs. When he looked at this scene, he didn't see a mountain range with a river running by it. He saw a picture. When he stood at this spot 40 years ago and looked at the Tetons, what he saw was this photograph, this exact composition.
That's incredible.
It really is. And that's, of course, why we have famous shots of his, like the moonrise over New Mexico. Because while he was driving along at dusk and looked out his window, he didn't see the countryside. He saw a photograph that needed to be taken.
And needed to be taken really quickly in that case.
Yes, very fast before the light faded, which is why he was so adept at changing plates.
And this is also about America, right?
Yes. Adams wanted Americans essentially to be able to see like he did, to see the beauty and artistry of the land.
Sort of makes you think of desire, doesn't it?
And passion.
And landscape.
And Marilyn Monroe.
And the Red Hat Society.
Not that one so much. But it is an idealization and a sort of ideal philosophy that I think gets to the core of what art is, and certainly art in America.
I agree.
Alrighty then.